point of time. Okay. Please feel free to let me know. You do not have to wait, for me to complete and then you have to ask your question. No, absolutely not. Just feel free to, shoot your question. Yeah. Thank you all. So let's talk about that. What are we going to learn? Okay. So let me share my screen and okay. Let me take you to Google. Okay. And let me show you that what I'm basically going to talk about. Okay. So if you go to Google and just simply type over here vmware.com, okay, you would find that it says VMware by Broadcom. Why? Because VMware was recently acquired by Broadcom. So Broadcom is now managing and has the complete ownership of VMware. Okay, so that is why it says VMware by Broadcom. Broadcom itself is a huge organization, and now they have basically VMware in their portfolio as well. Now, if you talk about the products that VMware has to bring, okay, and if you click on the product section and if you go down and if you click on see all products, so VMware has close to about 81 products, that they have, 81 different products. So they started off with a virtualization company. That is, they were, their initial bread and butter was to virtualize the service, to do data center virtualization. That is what they started off with. And let's say close to about after 22 or after 23 years, post the acquisition of Broadcom, they have basically consolidated and they have only 81 products now. Now, these 81 products that you see over here, they basically can cater to any organization, any need. So be it, you could be from a pharmaceutical company, a manufacturing, a credit card, insurance domain, a banking domain, a telco domain, you know, you can be from any diverse platform, it doesn't matter. VMware as an organization would be able to assist you and would be able to, you know, have a product that can cater to your requirement. Okay. Now, VMware over the years has changed a lot. Okay. They have basically diversified a lot and they are into everything now. So if you talk about, these are basically the operations tools, that they have. They have load balancers, they have monitoring tools, they have endpoints, they have, if you are a service provider and you have your own customers that you want to sell VMware services, you can even do that. You want to monitor the logs, you want to, collaborate with a third-party solution like Dell. You can also run now, for example, MySQL as a container, as a pod. You can do that as a service. You can do it now. You could run Edge. You can migrate NSX. You can run telcos. You can run Kubernetes platform. Terraform. Anything and everything. If you talk about firewall, SD-WAN solution. You know. So in a nutshell, anything and everything. If you talk about, VMware has an answer for you. What do you want to do in today's environment? You want to run an AI ML workload, you want to run Kubernetes, you want to run a pharmaceutical company. You tell me, what the options that you want to do. You want to do a desktop virtualization, you want to go deep into networking, security, everything VMware can give you. Now, VMware has changed its strategy. So earlier what used to happen was, I'm not sure if you guys know about it, but VMware has collaborated with the cloud providers as well. So that means if you want to run VMware, for example, on Google Cloud, you can do this. If you want to run it on Azure, you can do this. If you want to run it on Alibaba Cloud, you can do this. If you want to run it on Oracle Cloud, you can do this. And you can run it on many different providers, for example, HPE, T-Systems, they all give you cloud facility. So that means if you want to run VMware on Google, you can absolutely do it, you know. And the benefit is that, you will take a hardware from Google, and on that hardware, you will install, VMware solution. And then you can also leverage, Google Cloud services. For example, Google Load Balancer, Google WAF, Google Storage. So they all can basically integrate with the ESXi solution as well. So VMware has basically decided to expand out. Okay. VMware initially tried competing with these cloud providers, like Google, Azure, AWS, and then VMware gave up. VMware said that, there's no point in competing with them. So what it decided to collaborate with them. When you can't defeat someone, it's best that you collaborate with someone. Okay. So that is what they did. They started basically collaborating with all the, cloud providers out there. Now, VMware as a solution, you can run it at the on-premises. Okay. So if you want to run VMware at your on-premises environment, let's say that you say that I have a VMware which I want to run at the on-prem. Okay. Absolutely, you can do this. Let's say that you say that I don't want to run VMware on Google. I want to run VMware at my on-premises. Sure, you can run VMware at the on-prem. That is absolutely possible. Okay, you have your own data center where you are maintaining your VMware. Now you say that, from my own data center, I want to move to Google. I want to run VMware over there. You can absolutely do this, and you can do this with zero downtime. There would be no downtime, and you would be able to migrate anything and everything to Google Cloud without any service interruption. So VMware gives you a lot of flexibility. Okay. So you can manage VMware at the on-premises. You can also run it on the Google Cloud and so many other vendors like I talked about. You can all do that. No challenges over there. So what is the advantage of running VMware on cloud? Okay. Cloud has its own advantage, and when you collaborate VMware, with it, that makes it the best, sweet deal for you. So what is the benefit? Let me talk about the benefit now. The benefit over here is, for example, when you run ESXi, you need to have physical boxes. Okay. Now, at the on-premises environment, you have to basically decide, you have to scope that how many physical hardware you need. Because if you need a new hardware, you have to basically call up HP. They will take time. Then after 2 or 3 weeks, they will deliver the hardware to you. Then you have to rack and stack it. In the data center, you have to do all the management, and then your server is online. Okay. The server goes down. There is a problem with the hardware. The server is no longer available. Now you basically log a call. HP will say, I'll come after 3 days. And then you have to wait for the hardware replacement. You see that, there are a lot of challenges, when you're running VMware at the on-prem. Now, for example, if you were running VMware on the Google Cloud, for example, if this hardware goes down, you have another hardware which is available on the Google Cloud, and you can add it in less than 30 minutes. I need 10 additional boxes only for 1 week. That's it. I have a new project. Christmas is coming up. So I just want 10 ESXi boxes only for 7 days. That's it. And once the new year, rush is over, I don't want, those 10 additional boxes. So what do? You basically add 10 boxes from Google Cloud. You add them on your VMware cluster. You make use of them. And when your 7 days are over, you basically take away them. You can basically remove them and stop the billing. Okay. You don't want to have, an F5 load balancer. You don't want to invest in a Palo Alto checkpoint. You want, all these services to be given to you as a service. So what you can do is you can take the advantage of Google Cloud's, WAF, load balancer, their IDS, IPS functionalities. You can all do that. Okay. And instead of investing instead of you buying a Palo Alto service or a license, you basically leverage the Google Cloud, service, which is available by default to you. Okay. So you see the point, buddy? There are so many advantages, available over here, that you can basically, leverage that why you would be needing it and how this can be helpful to you. Yeah. Anyone has any questions, please feel free. Okay, so what are we going to learn in this course? Okay, we understand that VMware is relevant because we saw that, there are so many domains, there are so many products they are basically looking into. So what are we going to learn over here? Okay, so I'll give you an analogy of pizza. Okay, let's say that you order a pizza. This is a very horrible pizza, but just, think about it. You're ordering a pizza. Okay, when you order a pizza that, in Domino's or in Pizza Hut, they would ask you that, which kind of pizza would you prefer? A chicken pizza or a veg pizza? What are the toppings that you would prefer? Extra cheese, what should be the crust, and all so many options are there. Okay. However, the base of the pizza remains the same, no matter, whichever pizza you order. Okay, veg, non-veg, whatever your preference is, but the base of the pizza would remain the same. Okay. So what we are basically targeting over here is the base of the pizza, which is data center virtualization. So all these products that I was basically talking about, all these things that I was showing you, what you can do, what you cannot do, this is basically an add-on. This is a topping on the pizza. Okay. But what is the pizza base? The pizza base over here is vSphere, which is data center virtualization. Okay. That is what the pizza base is. So here we are targeting the vSphere, which is this one. Okay. This is the pizza base for you. And on top of it, you basically run anything and everything. This is how it goes. So here, what we are basically doing is that we are targeting um, the core VMware functionality. Okay. And this is what I will be teaching you on how you can get an understanding of managing the environment. So here is the course content that I'll be basically going through, and I would be, teaching you that how all these options work over here. So if you come over here and if you see this, so this is called a vSphere. A vSphere is basically their data center virtualization platform. That is what a vSphere is. And they have this course called ICM, Install, Configure, Manage. Okay. Here, this is what I will be talking about. That how do you, what is the course introduction? What is virtualization overview? How do you install and configure an ESXi? What is a vCenter? How do you configure the networking, storage? Then I'll be talking about how do you create a virtual machine? Then, how do you manage a virtual machine? How do you deploy a cluster? And then followed by, in the end, how to upgrade. So all these points which are mentioned in the official documentation, of course, we will be talking about it and we will be going through each and every option. However, there are few points which are not mentioned over here. I'll be even talking about those as well. Okay. So over here, uh, we are covering the official curriculum of data center virtualization. Okay. And we are basically targeting the certification level of VCP, VMware Certified Professional. Okay. Now, in VMware, when you talk about certifications, there are many certifications, that are available from VMware. That is network virtualization, security, and they have application virtualization certification. So what we are basically targeting over here is that we are targeting a VCP data center virtualization. This is the course content that we will be going through. Like if you talk about CCNA, for example, right? So you can do CCNA in routing and switching, wireless, data center, security, voice. I mean, CCNA has so many tracks now. Okay. Similarly is the case with a VCP. When you talk about VCP, there are multiple tracks available, wherein you can do a VCP. So the track that we are focusing on to do the VCP is data center virtualization, which I mentioned is that, is like, a pizza base, you know. After deploying the data center virtualization, you can basically then, do the NSX, AVI load balancer, platform containerization. You talk about anything and everything. Everything is done after the base is done. And then you would be able to do things. So here we are targeting basically the base over here. Okay. Now, could you share the content in the chat? Sure, I will definitely do that. So here is the course content. Where is the chat? Okay, here it is. Here you go. Okay, so here is the course content for you. VCP in full form, or VMware Certified Professional. That is what it means. Do we also need to learn CCNA? No, you do not have to learn CCNA. So the prerequisites to joining or to join this course are very simple. They are, you should have a basic understanding of what an operating system is. Okay. I don't want you to be a Linux expert. If you are a Linux expert or a Windows expert, that's great. But I don't want you to. I mean, for this course, it is not required. Okay. If you have a basic understanding of the operating system, it's perfectly fine. Okay. You have a basic understanding of a network. Okay. You understand what an IP address is. You understand what a switch is. You understand what a router is. I mean, that's more than enough. Okay, for me to take you through. Okay. And then you have a basic environment knowledge that, what a storage is, um, you know, and you understand that what a change management is in the organizations. If you don't, I mean, this is an optional thing. If you don't, I can talk about it. But this is all the expectations is. Okay. I am not looking for someone, who is very technically deep. I mean, if you are, that's good. I mean, that's beneficial for me. But if you are not, then also it is fine with me. No challenges over here. Okay. Now, the question is on how many classes and timing. So basically what we do is we target weekend. Okay, because I work Monday to Friday. So that is why I cannot teach on a weekday. Okay. And I'll be teaching you on a weekend. And we would have a class on Saturday and we would have a class on Sunday. Okay. We would have 3 hours of class. We would have a 3 hours class on a Sunday and we would have a 3 hours class on a Saturday and a Sunday. So that is how it is. Okay. Now, how do we do the practicals over here? So to do all those practicals, we have a lab. Okay. So what I basically do is I have one desktop. Okay. On that desktop, I install a VMware workstation. Okay. And in that workstation, I create my lab and then I basically show you all the demos. That is how it is. Okay. Now this lab has 64 GB RAM. Okay, so RAM is required over here. Okay, 64 GB RAM is required, a 500 GB SSD is required, and a good processor is required. This is the prerequisite to set up the lab. Now, in case if you don't have the lab, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We will, provide you the lab access. Okay, so I will set up the lab in front of you. All the lectures are recorded. Okay, you will get the recording and you just need to follow the lecture, the recording that we did in the class, the same thing you need to do for your practice. And then you will be able to set up a lab and then you can do a practice over there. So we will provide you the lab access via TeamViewer. You can log into the machine remotely. Okay. And then you can basically do the lab practicals. You don't have to buy your own machine. I mean, if you already have a machine, great. I am not asking anyone to spend money on the lab. I mean, if you want to, it's your wish. I'm not stopping you. I'm here to help you, to pick the right lab for you. However, if you cannot, buy a lab for now, no problem. We will provide you the lab and you can do the practice. You want the lab to be available on morning hours, evening hours, night hours, whatever you feel like, the lab will be available for you. So no concerns over there. Okay. Now, the other question is how much time the lab is available. It will be available for you. Don't worry about it. No? For next 2 or 3 months, it will be available. It will really happen. I mean, I did not understand, Abhi, your question. What do you mean by it will really happen? You can unmute your mic and you can go for it. You can ask the question. So Teju says that this class will cover L3, L4 level, right? So what we are basically doing is I am going through and I am explaining you the official course content. Okay. Now this is something we are talking about on installing, configuring, and managing. That is what we are doing over here. VMware has got different courses which talk about dedicated troubleshooting, which talk about advanced level courses. That is what we are not doing over here. Okay. Though I will be giving you advanced knowledge, but please understand this is I am going through as per the official curriculum. So this curriculum, whatever it states, this is what I will be going through. VMware has advanced courses. If you want to go deep dive into the technology, that is something I am not covering over here. Okay. So again, to set the expectations right, I am covering this curriculum that you see on your screen. This is what I'm going to cover over here. Okay. If you have any advanced questions, if there's anything advanced that you would like to talk about or you want me to explain, sure, I will do that. There are things that I do explain in a lot of details, and if I give you a lot of background on that. However, uh, please don't think about it that this is a dedicated class, only going through deep dive of everything. No, I tell you, like for example, here they have an option of HA, on how to deploy HA. Now, when I will teach you HA, I will tell you that what is happening in the background. It's not like, I'll tell you that, click on this, and, HA gets configured. No, I am telling you that when you click on HA, what is happening in the background? How would you verify? So I basically tell you the details from the background so that you have a clear understanding of what the functionality is doing and how it works. Okay, so this is how I teach. Whenever I tell you something, I tell you, you know, from the technical perspective as well, that what is happening behind the curtains. So when you understand what is happening in the background, that gives you a very good understanding of how the functionality would work. Okay. So I will be talking about all the options, how it works and all the other things. What is VMware, vSphere, ESXi? Uh, Let me make this a little bigger. It's hard for me to read. Okay, what is VMware, vSphere, ESXi until all get covered? It is required in my next project also. Is there career growth in VMware? Yes, Shobit, you are right. I will be covering all these points. So whatever you see over here on the screen, I will be talking about what virtualization overview is, what is an ESXi, why do you need it, how does the ESXi work on a RAM, why does it work on a RAM. So I'll be talking about all those options, what a vSphere is, what a vCenter is, how do you install it, how do you back it up, how do you upgrade it. So yes, Shobit, to answer your question, I will be talking about anything and everything. Now, Shobit says that is there a career opportunity in VMware? Is VMware really required? I mean, so to answer that question, I would say a big yes. Yes, VMware is required. Okay. Why is VMware required? Let me answer that question now. Okay. I mean, I'm not sure if all of you would have basically, there's an event called VM Explore that VMware does twice a year. Okay. And there they basically talk about, about the functionality and, what the options are. They basically talk about anything and everything. Okay. So one of the things, that they talk about in the event is that earlier people had a misconception that they wanted to move everything to the cloud. Okay. Now VMware says that they did a study. Okay. And as for that study, and this study was basically done by Barclays. It was not done by some Dick, Tom, Harry. Okay. It was done by Barclays, and this is a recent survey of 2024. Okay. 83%, 83% of the organizations, they want to bring to private cloud. Okay. So thing to highlight over here is people want to go back to the private cloud. That is what, VMware has basically publicly stated about this. This is not me telling you. This is not me, this is not an AI artificial intelligence picture that I got from some website. This is basically on the VMware on the portal. This is what they basically say, that people are now moving back to their own private cloud itself. And when you talk about private cloud, you need hypervisor, you need a virtualization layer. And trust me, VMware has a monopoly, when it comes to hypervisor. So for example, if I talk about Indian cars, okay, if you want to buy an Indian car, or if you go, see which cars you'll see on the road a lot, you will see Maruti Suzuki. In India, Maruti Suzuki basically they have a monopoly. For example, in India, if 100 cars are sold, Maruti alone sells about, 35 to 40 cars. That is what the market share of Maruti is. So Maruti has a monopoly. Nobody can beat, Maruti in India. I mean, though they can give a good competition like Tata, Mahindra, but where is the monopoly? Monopoly lies with, you know, um, Maruti. So same is the example when it comes to on-prem hypervisor. So when you talk about hypervisor environment at the on-prem, VMware has you know, an undisputed lead over there. If you talk about Microsoft operating systems, if you buy a laptop or a desktop, you would install a Windows 10 or a Windows 11, no? You would not install a Fedora minimal installation. That is not what you're going to do. Though technically, if you want, you can do this, but you will not do it. You will be happy installing Windows 10 and Windows 11. Why? Because Microsoft has a monopoly when it comes to the client operating systems. Same is the case with VMware as well. They have a monopoly, that when it comes to the on-premises environment, running hypervisors, they can absolutely do this. Okay. Now, VMware is basically giving you a plethora of services. So if I talk about, the options that they are providing you, here is a quick sneak peek. I want to show you that what you can do with VMware. So VMware has basically gone all out and they basically say that this is what you can do with my software. So let me bring a new tab up. Let me paste this over here. Okay, this is the same photograph, not this one. Okay, let me do a copy paste again. Where did that go? Give me a minute, please. I'm trying to pull that up. Okay, here it is. Here it is. Okay, not again. This one. Okay. Okay, no, my bad. I did not take the proper screenshot. Let me try taking this again. Okay. So I'll basically come over here, take a screenshot. Okay, come over here, do a copy. Now, okay. So VMware says that with my platform, this is what you can do. Okay. So if you look at it, if you want to run some advanced services, IDS, IPS, firewall, WAF, security, you can do all that. You want to run data services like I was talking about, if you want to run Postgres, MySQL, RabbitMQM, all as a service, you can do that. You can do disaster recovery. You can run private AI. You can do automation. You can do load balancing, and you can also look into the cloud, the telco providers. And then on top of that, you have got all these container operations, that you can do. So VMware was already doing virtual machines, right? They were basically creating the virtual machines since 2002. You could virtualize the operating system, Windows or Linux, and you could run it, like 10 Windows machines or 20 Windows machines on one physical box. That is something that they have been doing, since so many years now. I mean, I've been doing this since my childhood now. Okay. But now, because of the evolution in the IT, people are basically moving to containers, they can also run containers over here. So if you want to run a managed container service, or if you want to run AI, ML, because that's the new, hot topics which are coming up. If you want to run automation, all those things you can do with VMware platform. So VMware says not only you can use me for data center virtualization, that is, of course, you have been using me for so many years now, but apart from that as well, you think about it, what you want to do. You tell me one service, one solution, and I have an answer for you. Okay, so that is what VMware can basically do for you. So in a nutshell, yes, Shobit, VMware is here to stay. VMware is not going to go away. Okay. VMware basically did a comeback after the acquisition with Broadcom, and they are focusing heavily on the on-premises environment and on the cloud as well. They are available, with all the cloud providers. So VMware has a definitely, a good option to go for. And, the best would be to start with the basics. That is to understand that how the virtualization basically works. And then on top of that, as per your interest, you could start learning into different VMware technologies, NSX, software defined, their load balancing, edge, telco. There are so many things to learn in VMware. But this, what we are talking about is basically the foundations over here. Okay. If you guys have any questions, you can also unmute. You don't have to type on chat. If you feel comfortable, you can also unmute yourself and ask. Okay. I don't have permission to unmute. Okay, this is strange. I'll tell Amit. Amit, please give permission to unmute if you have not. If folks are unable to unmute, then yeah, maybe go for it now and see, and let me know if you can unmute now. Allow participants to unmute themselves. Okay, now go for it.
Hi, I have a question here.
Hey,
So,
go for it.
yeah, I have a question here. Actually, I have started my VMware career in 2017. Up to
Mm-hmm.
2019, I have worked. That time, I
Mm-hmm.
found there's some career is going to, means squeeze. So we
Mm-hmm.
moved to cloud. That time, we found that VMware was costly compared to cloud.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
after 2019 to 2022, 23, VMware is very down compared to other cloud.
Mm-hmm.
How
So,
you
mm-hmm.
can manage in future that why cloud is giving big challenges, because in VMware we have to get take multiple licenses, right? VMware
Mm-hmm.
CPU core wise licenses, then OS
Mm-hmm.
license support,
Mm-hmm.
manpower more. I'm also now
Mm-hmm.
I'm working cloud or multi cloud. I'm working. I one
Mm-hmm.
guy can manage entire thing without
Mm-hmm.
any licensing tension, and we should pay
Mm-hmm.
our minute basis or hour basis. Now, how
Mm-hmm.
can we suggest that VMware future is good? And I
Okay.
know big company they can afford big infra, so they can.
Mm-hmm.
But small starter,
Mm-hmm.
how can you startup company? How can you go for VMware, because its cost
I agree.
capex is more. It's big.
I
In
agree. I agree. So to answer your question, buddy, all that I would say is just Google up, and then you would get to know that, whether cost cloud is expensive or not. I mean, I agree to your point. If you only want 10 Windows machines, for example, and nothing else, then for you, VMware will be definitely expensive. No doubts about it. You have to buy a hardware, the licenses only to run 10 Windows machines. Yes, VMware will be expensive for you. But talk to SBI, talk to, um, for example, United Airlines, talk to an enterprise organization and ask them, would you move everything to AWS? Okay. So just to let you know, SBI is a huge, huge customer of VMware. They have been running it, I don't know, for so many years now. Folks who are not in India, who are joining us from other locations, just to let you know, SBI is State Bank of India. It is like a government bank in India. It is available from north to south, east to west in India. You go to any city, any town, you will find SBI over there. That is what the reach of SBI in India is. They have got thousands of branches, and they basically are heavily reliant on VMware. Now, if you
You
ask
can find
VMware,
them out of India as well.
yeah, yeah, thank you for that. So I didn't know that. Okay, cool, thank you. So SBI basically runs on VMware. Now, if you ask SBI that would you move everything to AWS, they would never ever do that. Okay, so basically it depends on your client. Okay, that how much are you spending on the cloud, and there is something called as TCO, total cost of ownership, and if you do an ROI, then you will understand, with time that on premises is much more cheaper as compared to running on the cloud. I'm not saying that it will be true for all the scenarios, but if you grow large, then yes, you will basically find cloud to be more expensive. Okay. I agree to your point that, I've got only few machines and I want to run it. Cloud is much cheaper. Yes, you are right. Cloud is much cheaper. VMware is not. But I am talking about enterprises over here. I'm not talking about startups over here. Okay. So if there is any startup, yes, for you, cloud is a good option, but not for an enterprise. And no enterprise would basically move to the cloud, just to answer that question.
Okay, sorry, I think I have a question that is similar to that. At the moment, I actually work with a company that use Azure. We have so many container
Hmm.
services that we run on Azure, and apparently for the cost is bloody too expensive so
Hmm.
far. But from the previous knowledge that I have on
Hmm.
VMware, I also have the understanding that is expensive. So I'm even finding it
Hmm.
difficult,
Hmm.
to propose VMware to them
Hmm.
because I'm not really scared. I'm really scared of, okay,
Hmm.
maybe at the end of the day, VMware will be more
Hmm.
expensive in terms of the OPEX. I don't want
Hmm.
something that will be more expensive when it comes to operation management. So
Hmm.
at this point, I want to ask if you are running container services on
Hmm.
VMware,
Hmm.
and maybe you have like
Hmm.
three ESSI.
Hmm.
Do you think, like roughly how much do you think it can cost in a month
Hmm. Okay, sure.
for operation services?
Sure, I'll answer that question. So basically now what VMware is doing is VMware is only selling you the software. So what is VMware? They are only basically giving you software. They give you applications. Okay, that is what they do. They don't give you the hardware. Okay. In software, the kind of discount that you can be crazy. You can get up to like 50% of discount because software is coded once and they are basically just then they are basically distributing the copies, right? So VMware only gives you softwares. They don't give you any hardware. Okay. Now, what will it'll cost you? I'll not be the right person to answer that question. All that I would say is if you want to get a real comparison, okay, take the bill of your Azure, the monthly bill that you get from the Azure, take that bill and talk to VMware sales folks. Okay, whosoever in whichever region you are from, in that region you will have VMware sales folks. Talk to them, give them your Azure bill, and tell them, and or maybe ask them that what they can do, how they can bring the solution down, what is the pricing that they can offer, how you would go about setting it up, what will be the dollar value that you will be saving at the end of the year. So I think those would be the right folks to answer that question. Just to let you know, if you run ESXi on your ESXi, you can run Tanzu service. Okay. And Tanzu basically means that you are running VMware, I mean virtual machines and containers on the same platform. Okay, so VMware has an understanding of running Tanzu. If you don't want to invest in Tanzu, if you want to run, natively Kubernetes on ESXi, then you can create, um, Linux machines on ESXi, and then you can create your worker and your, master nodes over there, and you can run your native Kubernetes solution if you want to. You can even do that. So it all depends on you, that on how you want to do this. But just to let you know, VMware only gives you software, so you can get huge discounts over there.
Okay, I get that. Oh, two questions from that.
Hmm.
Like the VS3 from
Hmm.
Dell, I'm
Hmm.
sure that's part the hardware and the application is together.
Right.
Okay.
Correct. So VxRail is a solution from VMware, wherein what they are doing is that Dell comes in with their hardware, VMware comes in with the software, both of them club together, and they give you a solution called VxRail. Okay, so VxRail is running VMware on Dell hardware. That is what VxRail is. Again, you can get huge discounts from Dell. You can get huge discounts from VMware. You can just talk to them, talk to the sales representative, and they will, suggest you a good option, what you can go ahead with. Just give them your Azure bill. This is what I would suggest you.
Okay, for the application, is the payment is it monthly or just yearly?
I think it'll be monthly. I think it'll be
Monthly.
monthly. You don't have to pay upfront,
Okay.
right? So VMware has got a lot of different licenses, available for you. They have a license which is, well suited for an SBI, for a huge bank, and it is also well suited for a very small customer who has a very, little requirement, who has a very limited requirement. VMware can also basically address to that customer as well. It's not like, VMware can only help the big customers and not the small ones. No, that is not the right understanding. VMware can help, from a very big company even to a small company. Okay, but you have to keep in mind VMware is only giving you the software, not the hardware. So initially, you might have to do an initial investment, but then it would actually help you. So, Shitaveshwar, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
So you were saying that the cloud is cheap, and see, we have someone on the call who's saying that Azure is super expensive. So when you expand, when you go deep in the cloud, then buddy, you understand it's not that simple. It's not that fluffy, or it's not that simple as it looks like. That I'll go to the cloud, I'll pay this amount, and I'll be up and running. When you start scaling out, then you basically understand the problems that you run into, right? Cool.
Okay.
Anyone else has any
Lastly,
questions? Yeah.
I think I
So
still
I
have
have a
one
one
more
question.
question.
Go
Sorry,
for
can
it.
I
Go
just
for it.
quickly
Hello.
ask
Go
this
for
last
it.
Can you
Go
hear
for
me?
it, buddy. Buddy,
Okay.
hang on. Let him go. Yeah, sure, buddy, go
Hello.
for it. You go for it.
Okay. In this
Yeah.
course, are you
So
going to take
I have
us
I have a
around the? Okay, let me allow him ask his own. I think so that I won't just.
okay. So
Chiteshwar,
Yeah,
yeah.
go. Yes,
So
sir.
finish here, buddy.
Another one.
So why the like VMware is best against the cloud?
so like I was talking about, it is for the total cost of ownership. What you will pay in the cloud, with time, you will understand running it at the on-premises is much cheaper. Okay, and this is what the study also basically shows over here, that 83% of the organizations, basically the Fortune 500, they are basically, planning to move back to a private cloud from the public cloud. And this is done by Barclays in 2024. It's not done by any Dick, Tom, Harry, organization. So yeah, the word is called repatriation. So that basically means, trying to move back to the on-prem. So you would find a lot of benefits moving back to the on-prem, and majority being that you can see your data, you have got more control, and it is much more financially a, viable option. That's the
Is there
reason.
any cost associated with this training moving further?
Yes, there will be a cost associated with this training, and this is a paid course, that we will basically be going through. What the cost will be, please reach out to the guy who gave you this Zoom URL. His name is Amit, and he can basically
I
share
got this
with you
from
what the
LinkedIn
cost.
actually.
You got us from LinkedIn, no problem. So there is this guy, Amit, on the call, or
Uh-huh.
maybe, let me write his phone number. Okay. So let me write his phone number over here. So you can basically, just ping him on WhatsApp, and he would be able to tell you what the pricing would be and how much would it cost. Okay, so let me make this big. Okay, so his name is Amit, and what's his phone number? I don't remember. Let me pull it up. Okay, so
Buddy.
his phone number is, just give me a minute, buddy. Let me write his phone number.
Yeah, sure.
9540662 806. Yeah. So this is his phone number. He's on WhatsApp. Just ping him and ask him, all the other, financial details or when the course is going to begin. And, he would be the right person to answer these questions for you. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. My last question. In
Hmm.
this course,
Hi, Baba.
Hi.
Hey, go for it, guys.
Vaibhav.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Manjunath. I'm from Bangalore.
Hey.
I'm working for HPE as a Windows administrator. So
Okay.
recently I have joined in HP, but they used to use VMware environment. We have already. So
Okay.
I need to know where we need to start. Like our
Sure.
colleague already, friends already told like that. I need to know where I need to start and I need to get up to. So current situation, current um, uh, environment I need to learn like this.
Cool. Fair enough. Thank you for joining.
Welcome.
Hi, I am Shihas. No,
Hey.
I am Shihas.
Hey, Shreyas.
I'm working in Benefit Pay in Bahrain. It's a banking company. So I want to learn VMware. I know, but for the networking part, I don't know anything. So for me, I'm concentrating on the networking part, the VMware.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
No problem. Thank you for joining.
Hi, Weber sir.
Hey.
I'm Saurabh from Gurgaon.
Hey.
Currently, I'm working in PE as a Windows admin, and
Hmm.
I have bit knowledge of VMware, but I want now to the VMware in the
Okay. Cool. Thank you for joining.
Hi, Adam. This is
Hey.
Amar.
Hey,
I'm
Amar.
from I'm from Bangalore. Currently, I'm an L1 engineer
I want to move L2, so I have a basic knowledge on VMware and Windows, so I want to learn more, complete VMware side. So that's why I
Cool.
interested in it.
Thank you, Amar. Anyone else?
Yeah, my name is Evangeline, and I'm joining
Hey,
from the UK. I currently work as in IT support, so
hmm
I want to learn technology and add to my profile
cool. Thank
and
you for
get a
joining.
job as well. Thank you.
Sure. All right, everyone. Thank you for the introductions. If anyone is left or you would like to give your intro, go for it. If not, that's okay, as you feel comfortable. Okay, let's get started. So let me basically start off with the very basics, and then I'll keep going into each and every topic, and then I will be basically talking about anything and everything. Okay. Let's address the big question, why virtualization? Okay, why you should be using virtualization. Let's answer this question for now. Okay, and then we'll take one step at a time. So let's take an example that, let's say we are in year 2004. Okay, a hypothetical scenario. Let's say we are in 2004. And in 2004, what used to happen was there was no virtualization in production as such. Virtualization as a concept was out in the market. However, people were not using it actually in the data centers. Okay, it was only a term that had recently been coined. Um, and people were basically relying on the physical servers. So all that you had in your environment, you had physical servers. Now, let me talk about, if you are running a physical server, what is the challenge that you will have? And how does virtualization help you? Okay. Now, we all understand that if you buy a physical server, let's say that this is your HP or your Dell server, okay, on every physical machine, you will basically have one operating system and you would be installing one application on it. Now, theoretically, okay, if you want, you can have multiple applications over here on one physical box, on one operating system. Okay. Theoretically, you can do it, but trust me, practically, you will not do it. Okay. Practically speaking, in environments, you would only have one operating system on one hardware, and you would be only running one application on it. That is what we do. Okay. Now, with this logic, what would happen is that for every physical server, I mean, for every application, you need to buy a physical box. This is what you need to do. And this will basically keep going on. Okay. Now, there will be a time when you will have a lot of physical boxes in your environment. Okay. You have a lot of physical boxes in your environment, and you cannot keep all these physical boxes in your home. You cannot keep all these physical boxes in your office. That's not possible. Okay, because they require dedicated electricity, cooling, internet connectivity, security. Then you have IT audits, that you have to be compliant, in. So there are too many factors that you have to weigh in. So what would basically happen is that then you basically look for a data center. Okay. What is a data center? Data center is basically a physical location which is meant only to be hosting servers. Okay. Like kids go to school. Okay. If you want to work out, you go to a gym. If you want to, you go to office, that's a professional place. So everything has its own place, where you go and do a specific job. Similarly, we have data center. So data center is a dedicated place where you basically host your physical servers. Why a data center? Okay. Because in a data center, you get a dedicated electricity supply. Okay. You get proper internet connectivity. Okay. There is security. Okay. There is cooling, because when you have a lot of boxes, they generate hot air, and that has to be cooled. The temperature has to be maintained. Okay. And then you have to be compliant in your audit. Okay. All these things are basically important. That is why you host your environment in a data center. Okay. Now, data center can be, like a huge facility, depending on, in which part of the world you are in. If you are in Singapore or in, other country, you might have a data store which can be like a 10-story high, building, or maybe a 15 or 20-story high building. If you are in US, it'll be like a, one floor, one block, and it'll be like a huge data center, like a football field, data center. Depends on, in which part of the world you are in. Okay. However, if you are as an organization only running physical boxes, okay, for your applications, then you are bound to run into some issues. Okay, what will be those issues? Let me answer those questions. The first thing is that you have to pay for these physical boxes, which is basically called a capex, which is called capital expenditure. That means, let's take an example. In every organization, there is something called as a development environment, and there's something called as a production environment. Okay. Now, if you have to run an application, okay, then you need to buy a physical box over here. Now you need to buy a physical box over here. Now, this is for one application. In your organization, you might have at least 50, 60, 100 applications, or maybe more than that. Okay. The more servers, the more applications that you are running, the more physical boxes that you will have. And if you have multiple environments like development and production, then you basically multiply them by 2. Now the question is, when you have to install an application on an HP server, who is going to pay for it? Okay, it's not going to be you and me who's going to pay from a monthly salary. It's going to be from the IT's budget. Now, we will be using IT's credit card, right? And then we will be making the payment. So this is basically called a capital expenditure, CapEx, that when you have to buy the hardware, you have to invest for the money. Okay, that is what the challenge is, which is called capital expenditure. So every company, whenever they have to buy a hardware, they have to basically pay for it. And then you basically get the hardware. Now, even though when you have made the payment, you do not get the hardware there and then. You have to basically wait for it. It's not like you call up HP and they are going to say that we're going to give you the hardware tomorrow. No, that's not going to happen. They will take their time, and then they will basically deliver the box, and that can be 2 or 3 weeks depending on what you have ordered. The second problem that every organization will face is basically operational expenditure. That is, I'll give you an example. If you buy a Ferrari, that's one cost. Then to maintain a Ferrari, that's another cost. Okay. So when you have such a huge environment, okay, when you have too many physical boxes, then you need people to manage it. Okay. Then you are basically paying for maintaining those boxes, which basically includes, hiring more people, paying the data center bill, renewing the annual contracts, making sure that, everything for those physical boxes is up to date. So, you're doing a timely, patching and the firmware upgrade activity. For that, you require folks. You have to invest in the training. So there are a lot of things, that come along with maintaining a lot of a huge environment. So that is called an operational expense, and which is referred to as OPEX. The third problem that you run into when you are running a physical environment is basically utilization. Okay, what is utilization problem? So for example, I have this Windows server over here. And if I go to the task manager over here, and if I go to performance, you see my CPU utilization is currently at 1%, 0%, and you see my memory utilization is at 2%. Okay. Now, when you buy a hardware, you do not buy with an intention that I will only be using 5% or the 10% of the CPU, or I would only be using, 30 or 40% of RAM. When you buy a hardware with a lot of, with a good CPU, with a good memory, you want to utilize those resources. You want your application to utilize it. Okay. Now, like I mentioned earlier, on one physical box, only one application goes. If your application is not utilizing the CPU, what can you do to utilize the CPU? How can you increase the utilization of the CPU? There is nothing that you can do. So let's give another example. Let's say that you have a laptop, okay, or maybe a desktop at home. Now, if you go to the utilization of the laptop or the desktop, you see, your laptop is running at 15, 20% CPU utilization. Now, there is no way for you to share those CPU resources with another laptop. There is no way that you can take out half of the CPU and give it to someone else, and basically they can increase the capacity, and when you want it, you get it back. There is no way. In physical machine, all the resources that you basically get are only limited to that box only. If your application is using the resources, great. If it's not using it, there is nothing that can be done about it. Okay. So the other problem is utilization. Whenever you buy a box, whatever the utilization it has, that's what you have to live with it. There is no way for you to share the resources. Okay. The other concern that you will run into when you are running a physical environment is basically, let me draw a line over here so it becomes easy for me. Okay. The other problem that you will run into is basically LCM, which is Life Cycle Manager. Now, what is Life Cycle Manager? This basically refers to that when you buy something from the market, okay, everything has a shelf life. Okay, so for example, you go to market and you buy a packet of rice, or you buy, for example, a packet of chips. Everything has an expiry date that you should consume this within so on to date. If not, basically don't consume it and throw it away. Everything has a shelf life. Similarly, when you buy a hardware, when you buy any server, HP, Dell, IBM, it also comes with a shelf life. And that shelf life maximum can be 5 years. Okay. After 5 years, you have to throw away the hardware and get a new one. That is how it is. So for example, I bought a laptop in 2008. Okay. I bought a Dell laptop in 2008 and I still have it with me. Okay. It works like a charm. There are no concerns over there. However, if I want to install Windows 10 on it, okay, and I need drivers, okay, I need audio driver, video driver, network driver, wireless driver, the Bluetooth driver, there's so many other drivers which are required. And if I call up Dell and if I tell them that, here is my service tag number of the laptop, give me Windows 10 drivers. They would say, sorry, buddy, your machine is end of life. Okay, it is end of support. We cannot give you anything. Now you need to basically get a new Dell machine and then we can provide you Windows 10 drivers. Okay. Similarly is the case with an HP hardware as well. If you have bought an HP hardware, for example, in 2017, okay, and we are in 2024, and you basically call up HP and you tell them that, we are planning to upgrade or we are planning to install Windows 2022 as an operating system over here, and I want the drivers. I want the firmware for the hardware. HP will say, sorry, I don't have it and neither I can provide you. Because this hardware that you had in 2017 has basically reached end of life. Get a new one, and then you will be able to install Windows 22 as an operating system or Windows 2025 as an operating system. Okay, so whenever you buy any hardware, it comes with a shelf life. Now, what would happen? So, for example, let's say that you bought the server in 2017, and earlier, as an operating system, you were running 2008. Okay, now you need to upgrade it to 2022. You cannot because your hardware doesn't support it. There are no drivers and firmwares. So LCM basically means that you throw away the box, get a new one, install and rack it in your data center, rack and stack it, do the network cabling and everything, install the operating system, restore the application, do everything, and then you would be able to use it. Okay, this is basically called a lifecycle manager. Now, keep in mind, when you are throwing away the old box, you are not going to get any money. Okay, if you are thinking that you're going to get something in return because you are giving away something, no, that's not going to happen. You will have to pay from your own pocket. So what you will have to do is you will have to basically reach out to a disposal vendor, someone who can dispose the hardware in a proper certified manner. You will have to reach out to them. Then you will basically share with them the inventory, the number of physical boxes that that you have to dispose. They'll tell you an amount that this is how much I will charge from you for disposing it. Remember, you have to pay that money. You're not getting anything in return. Okay. And then when you pay that amount, they'll come at your data center, pick up all the boxes, dispose it. They'll probably send you an email, and that email you can use in the IT audit, confirming the auditor that you did dispose the hardware in a proper manner. Okay. That is what an activity of a lifecycle manager is. Trust me, I have done this activity. Okay. It's not fun. You will love it once, twice, thrice, and then you will start, hating it that, you have to throw away the boxes and then get a new one again. It becomes monotonous. Okay. This is what basically a lifecycle manager means. Yeah. The other concern that you will have when you are running a physical environment is basically provisioning time. So for example, I come up to you, I walk up to you and I say, give me 5 Windows 2008 operating systems right now. I have some application, I want to do some testing. Give me 5 physical boxes right now. Give me 5 different operating systems right now. You would say, I don't have any spare Windows physical box, where I can install Windows. I need to have spare boxes, no? I need to have it in my inventory, then only I can assign you one. If I don't have it in my inventory, how can I give you one, a Windows or a Linux machine? That's not possible. Okay. If you will say, okay, how much time do you need? Let's say that, that the other guy says, I have approval from my manager that you can buy a box for our application, and then you do a rack and stack, install the operating system, then give that machine to me that I can use it for my application. Okay. That would at least take 2 or 3 weeks because you will, call up HP, place an order. They will ship you the hardware. You will coordinate with your data center guys. They will rack and stack it, do the cabling. You will install the operating system, do everything. And then, the server will be basically ready for the application team. So that will take a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks. So the provisioning time basically goes very high. Okay. You cannot just get an operating system in less than a minute or something. That's not possible. Yeah. The other concern that you have in a physical environment is basically about the downtime. Let's say I have a server wherein it had 2 power supplies and both of them crashed. Okay. Now think of it any reason, let's say hypothetically both the power supplies failed. Now you call up HP and you tell HP, hey HP, this is my serial tag number, and I've got 2 power supplies, and both of them failed. Okay. I want you to send an engineer ASAP and please get them replaced. My server is down. My application is not working. Okay. The HP guy will say, you know what? Today's Thursday, and it's almost end of the business hours. Tomorrow is a public holiday, a bank holiday, and then we have weekend. And the kind of contract you have only allows an engineer to come over on the next working day. Okay. Now I can send an engineer only on a Monday. I cannot send the engineer tomorrow, or neither on a weekend, because that's not the kind of contract you have. Okay. Now your server, your application is down for 3 days. The guy will come over on a Monday and he will replace it, and then your basically application or the server will come online. Okay. So with physical machine, you have an issue with the downtime as well. That in case if you do not run it in a clustered environment, if it's a standalone machine where the application is deployed, you did not configure resiliency or the high availability aspects. And if that machine goes down, then you have to wait for these, that HP guy to come over and replace it. That's the other challenge that you can have in terms of a downtime. Okay. And the last and the least problem that you could have in your environment would be about scalability. So let's take an example. Your manager says that, we have a new project coming up. Okay. And in that project, we have to basically deploy, let's say, 200 physical boxes. Okay. I have a new project coming up wherein I need 200 physical boxes. Management has approved. We are going to buy 200 physical boxes. Now the question is, Does your data center has the capability to host 200 physical boxes? Do they have the capacity to host, those number of boxes? If they don't, then what you're going to do? Then you have to basically, reach out to another data center, and then you basically host 200 boxes over there. Now you are running two facilities. Then you have to connect these two facilities together so that the machines can talk to one another. How far or how apart these facilities are, what is the kind of bandwidth that you have between them, what is the kind of latency that you are getting, how your application will react, how the application experience for the end user will be. All these questions will start popping up now. Okay, so these are a couple of challenges that you will run into if you are running a physical environment. Okay, now let's switch them. Let's say that I am now running a VMware environment. I am running a virtualization environment. Okay, how all these problems are going to go away? When you are running a VMware environment, you have to buy less physical boxes because you are running virtual machines on top of those physical boxes. That is why you do not have to buy a lot of physical boxes, so you're saving money over there. Yeah. When you do not have too many physical boxes, you are not paying a lot of money to your data center facilities because you're only consuming one rack, wherein you were consuming earlier 8 or 9 racks. So now you're only consuming 1 or 2 racks, because of which you're paying less to your data center. Okay. The utilization is better. How? Because if one virtual machine is not utilizing the resources, the hypervisor, the virtualization will basically share those resources with the other virtual machine. So overall, on the physical machine, you have a good utilization aspect that you see over there. Okay. There are few less servers, that you have to replace every 5 years. Of course, every 5 years, you will have to throw away the box and get a new one. But um, you can do this activity at your leisure. There is no downtime included. Everything can be done so smoothly. I will do all these practicals and I will show it to you. Okay. If you want a Windows or a Linux machine, you give me 1 minute, and less than 1 minute, I can give you a Windows server. Okay. With an IP address, with a DNS entry, and everything can be done for you. And you will be basically, you will have a Windows or a Linux machine that you can start working on less than a minute. Okay, this is what the power of the virtualization is, that the provisioning time goes down drastically. How about the downtime? Let's say that if your physical machine goes down on which the virtual machines were running, that physical box, if it goes down, do not worry. All your virtual machines automatically will fail over to another boxes that you have in your environment. Time it, and in less than 5 minutes, everything will be back online. Okay, less than 5 minutes, everything will be back online, so you do not have to worry about the downtime. Okay. You want to host 200 or 100 new virtual machines. You want to host 100 new Linux machines. Okay. Give me like an hour. And in an hour, I can give you 100 machines with an IP address, with the DNS, everything that can be done for you. Okay. So that is the power that you have in terms of scalability. So these all challenges that you have in the physical environment, virtualization can very easily overcome all of them. Any questions over here? Whatever I spoke about, please let me know. Okay, let's move on. So now we understand that how virtualization is helping the organizations. Okay. Now, when we talk about virtualization, there is a term called hypervisor. Okay. What is a hypervisor? So earlier, I basically told you that when you have a HP server, on that HP server, we are installing one operating system and we are installing one application. Okay. Now, what would basically happen is that now when you have an HP server, on this HP server, with the help of the virtualization, you are now able to run, for example, a lot of different virtual machines. Okay, so this could be a Windows, this could be a Linux, this could be Red Hat, this could be Windows, this could be Fedora or whatever it is. Okay, so wherein earlier you had one operating system and one application, Now you're running multiple operating systems and everyone has one application. So you are basically now running 5 applications on one box as compared to earlier running one application. Okay. So the official definition of hypervisor would be any operating system or an application that can help you in running multiple virtual machines only on one physical box is called a hypervisor. Okay. Now, hypervisor can be an operating system, it can be an application, both. Okay. Let me explain it further. Let's take an example. It's early Christmas, okay? And let's say Dell rolls out an offer. Dell says, you know, during the Christmas time, I will basically be giving laptops with no operating system. Okay, there is no operating system on the laptop, and it is a very cost-effective deal. It's a very good deal that you are getting from Dell because there is no operating system. So you say, that's okay. I mean, there is no operating system, that's fine. I'll buy my own operating system. Okay. I don't need an operating system from Dell, or maybe I already have an operating system. Okay. Or maybe if you don't have a key also, Microsoft offers Windows 10. You can run without the key as well. I mean, you would not have all the functionalities, but it's okay. I mean, it would say that your license is not valid, but that's fine. I'm using a trial license. I'm not putting any license key. So Windows will let you run your operating system. You might not get, the patches, or you might not get all the functionalities, but you can still run it. Or you might have a key, that you might already have, and you would say that, I'll probably use that key. Okay. So what you will do is on your laptop, you would have a USB port and you will basically plug the USB in and you will install Windows 10. Now, when you are installing Windows 10, this installation goes on the hard drive of the laptop. So there's a hard drive on the laptop, okay, where you save everything. There we are installing the operating system Windows 10. Now, keep in mind, the hard drive earlier was completely blank. It had no operating system. It had nothing on it. It was a blank hard drive. And then on that blank hard drive, I basically installed Windows 10. Why was I able to install Windows 10 on a blank hard drive? Because Windows 10 is a complete operating system. To install Windows 10 on a hard drive, you do not need any third-party bootloader. You do not need any other fancy, task that you have to do to install it. Windows 10 is a self-sufficient and is a complete operating system that has all the properties, whatever it requires to run applications or anything, and it can be installed directly on the hard drive. Okay. Similarly is the case with the hypervisor. So you have something called as a type 1 hypervisor. A type 1 hypervisor is a complete operating system like I explained you Windows 10. So Windows 10 is a complete operating system that gets installed on the hard drive directly. Similarly is happening over here as well. So you will have an HP server. On that HP server, you will have a hard drive which will be completely blank. There will be no operating system, nothing on the hard drive. Now, on this hard drive, you will be installing the type 1 hypervisor directly on the hard drive like you were doing over here, because a type 1 hypervisor is a complete operating system. That is why it goes directly on the hard drive. Any questions over here? Okay. Now, let's go back to our earlier example. Let's say that you got the Dell machine, the Dell laptop, you have it. Okay. You installed Windows 10 on it. Okay. Now let's say I want to watch a movie. Let's say I have a movie file. I have an MP4 file and I want to watch a movie. Okay. Now, which application should I use to watch a movie? Now you would say that, there are so many applications. There are so many, software runtimes which are available. You can download any one of them and then you can watch a movie. One of them is basically called a VLC player. Okay, and this is a good, movie or a song, player, and it works well. However, to install VLC, you will basically go to their website, and on a Windows machine, you will get an exe file. Okay. If you have to run this exe file, you need a Windows 10 operating system. Okay. If you have a hard drive which is completely blank, which has no operating system, then you cannot run this exe, because exe is an application which requires an interface like an operating system, and then only it can work. Okay, if there is no operating system, the exe file is not going to help you out. Similarly, it's the case with a type 2 hypervisor. So a type 2 hypervisor is basically an exe file that you will get. Okay, you need to download and run this exe file only if you have a Windows or a Linux operating system. Then only you will be able to execute the exe file. Once this is done, then you can create multiple operating systems. This is called a type 2 hypervisor. Okay, let me draw some architecture so that you understand better. So let's say this is my physical machine. Okay, this is my HP server. Here I would have CPU, memory, network, card, hard drive. Here I would have everything. Okay, now this is the hard drive that I have over here. Let's say this is completely blank. Okay, I have nothing over here. Now, directly on the hardware, you will install type 1 hypervisor, which is your complete operating system. Okay. Once this is done, now you will be creating multiple virtual machines on it. Every virtual machine will have its own operating system, its own application. This is what you will do. And this is the architecture for type 1 hypervisor. Any questions, anyone? Okay. Let's talk about type 2 hypervisor. So in a type 2 hypervisor, you have a physical machine. Physical machine has CPU, memory, network, hard drive. This can be an HP server or a Dell server, anything. Now on this physical machine, you install a Windows 10 operating system or a Windows 2019 operating system, something you install. Okay. Once this installation is done, after that you install the type 2 hypervisor, because this is an exe file. Okay, this can only be run on a Windows 10 or or as a base operating system if you have anything. Okay. And then you will be creating virtual machines over here, and they will have their own operating system and their own application. This is basically referred to as a type 2 hypervisor. Any questions on type 1 and type 2?
Type 2, can you please explain?
Hey, Amar, there is a lot of background noise. I cannot hear you. Can you please come to a silent location?
Type 2, can you please explain this one?
Sure. So basically, I was saying a type 2 hypervisor is wherein you have a physical machine. Okay. On that physical machine, you will install a Windows 10 as an operating system or Windows 2019. So on that physical machine, you are installing an operating system. This can be a Mac also. This can be a Linux also. Okay, anything that you feel like. Once the operating system installation is done, now you would be basically installing, sorry, where is my pointer? Okay, now you would basically be installing your type 2 hypervisor, because the type 2 hypervisor is an exe file. Okay, you will install this exe file in an operating system. So for example, this file, if you look at this file over here, VMware Workstation, what is this file? This is an exe file. You see over here, it says application. If on this Windows 2019 server, if I want to run multiple virtual machines, I need to install a VMware Workstation. This is a type 2 hypervisor for me. It is an application, it is an exe file, and then I will be able to run multiple virtual machines on it. So you see over here, it is an exe file. Okay, and then once the installation is done, you will be able to create multiple virtual machines over here. Amar, is this okay with you?
Yeah, yes, yeah. But in on top of the physical server, we are installing the client operating system. Either we can install client or server, both, right?
Correct.
Anyone we can. Yeah.
Correct.
On top of that, we will install the hypervisor EXE.
Correct. And then we will be creating the virtual machines.
Yeah. And can you please explain hypervisor exact definition? And someone who people are told you that is software, or that is hypervisor is application, and hypervisor is operating system. What is exact hypervisor is?
So like I mentioned, hypervisor can be your operating system or it can be an application. It can be both the things. Okay. So hypervisor is commonly a term. Let's say, for example, car. What is car? Car is a term. You can buy a car from Suzuki. You can buy a car from BMW, Audi. All these are cars. Okay. Car is a generic term. So for example, hypervisor is also a generic term. You can have an hypervisor which is a complete operating system, which will be called a type 1, or you could have an application as an hypervisor. This will be called as a type 2. Okay. In type 1, the hypervisor that you have from VMware is called ESXi. The name of the hypervisor is called ESXi. Okay. In type 2, the hypervisor that you have, the type 2 hypervisor that you have from VMware is called VMware Workstation. Okay, this is for Windows and Linux. And if you're using Mac, you have got Fusion. So these are the type 2 hypervisors that you have from VMware. And this is a type 1 hypervisor that you have from VMware, which is called ESXi. Any questions, anyone?
Yes, sir. What is the purpose of type 1? Actually, I think it is not used in production.
Sort of your voice was
No
breaking,
one
but I
has.
did get your question. I did get your question, but your voice was breaking. So basically what would happen is you use a type 1 hypervisor only in the production environment. Okay, like any organization who has to run real workloads, a production workload, they would always be preferring to a type 1 hypervisor. When you are learning at a personal thing, when you are learning, when you are doing a training, when you're trying out things, then basically you can do on a type 2 hypervisor. This is basically at an individual level. Okay, so always a type 1 in the production environment, and a type 2 can be used for an individual training, lab, all these purposes.
Sorry, Vaibhav. The Hyper-V you will consider as a type 1 or type 2 then?
Now, this is a debatable question. I have never worked on Hyper-V. Some people say that, it is a type 2, but, next time when it reboots, only the hypervisor comes up. So I would not go in that debate. I would leave that judgment up to you. But I don't know, to be honest, because I've never worked on Hyper-V.